we made so many mistakes, and obviously there are sayings that you have to learn from other people's mistakes, yada yada. There are like a gazillion amount of books or ebooks, articles written about that, and you have to learn from other people's mistakes. Unfortunately, we learned in a hard way. We have no easy routes. We always go for the very rough, bumpy roads.
The
We
hard
don't
path.
like highways, but we becoming stronger every single day. And our motto is just to show up.
Hello, listeners and watchers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode of the SDR DiscoCall Show. If you're stumbling upon this for the first time, thank you very much for joining, and it's good to always jump into things. But why did this show exist? We work in the world of tech sales, and within tech sales is a really cool position called sales development. And the job of sales development is to get people interested in a company's software or solution to then enter into a sales cycle. And from my point of view, it is one of the most hardest positions in sales. So what I like to do is go around the world and find really cool people that have worked in this profession and also have progressed since that. And my name is Neil Bouyan and your host. If you're listening to this in your local podcast platform, if you could do us a big, massive favor is if you can go give us a rating and share this episode with somebody that you feel could benefit from it. But if you're watching this on our YouTube channel in 4K, please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe down below, because it tells the algorithm that this is good content and more people get to see us. And it costs nothing to do. So feel free to like, comment, and share down below. But with today's guest, this is somebody that was introduced to me by a very good friend, Deepak Videra. And when me and Deepak were chatting about people to come on the show, he said, dude, you need to get this gentleman on because he's had quite a cool, massive career. And, you know, I've got a lot of respect for him. So a friend of Deepak is a friend of mine. So, sir, could you please introduce yourself and tell us who are you, where are you based in the world, and what is your role, sir?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Neil. Thank you for having me. So my name is Karolis Žemaitis. So I'm originally from Lithuania. This is where I'm born and raised here. So, and I am one of the co-founders and chief operating officer of GrowTech.
Carlo, pleasure to have you on board, and thank you so much for joining us on the SDR DiscoCall Show. So you're based out there in Lithuania, and as you said, like you're a COO, and also that you're working within GrowTech. And I'm curious to know, what does GrowTech do at a super high level, Carlo?
Yeah, sure. So super high level. So GrowTech is a lead generation agency which helps small to medium-sized companies go into foreign markets such as US, UK, Europe, Southeast Asia too. And we do that with throughout emails, LinkedIn, and calls. That's super high level, Neil.
Love that. Thank you very much for sharing. And we'll be putting in links for GrowTech. So if you guys want to check them out to see what they do and if it's an applicable service for yourself, feel free to reach out to Carlo and say Neil sent you. No leads and referrals given to Neil. But I was wondering also, Carlo,
Talk about that.
who are the typical people that may come through your doors looking for help?
Yeah, it truly depends. Typically, we speak with startup level founders or C-level executives that are looking for possibilities to, after creating their own product or creating the MVP, they want to test different markets. They have a lot of questions, they have a lot of hypotheses, but they don't have any answers. And that's how we typically help them to answer those kind of questions on such as what kind of markets their product has a need, or what kind of industry they have to operate. And we help them to kind of go into different markets typically through outreach.
Thank you very much for sharing, Carlo. And as I like this to make this a bit more human with on our show, because we love people and it's all about the people in these episodes. Outside of the world of tech and sales and lead generation, Carlo, what are your passions, hobbies, and interests? What do you like to get up to, dude?
So obviously, I have my own business, which is called GrowTech. I'm passionate about tech, which is a very general answer, to be honest. So for the past 5 years, that's my hobby, my life. The entire experience that I built, it was around GrowTech or for GrowTech. So it depends from my personal life right now. I'm still discovering some sports. I used to play basketball for 11 years,
Wow.
but then university started. I was playing semi-professional actually.
Okay.
So, but I have chosen university instead of basketball or getting into some sort of sports. I started studying finances. I never thought that I would enter tech or sales in general. So
Mm,
that's how I started. But I always been passionate about business
mm,
aspect of it. Starting 14 years old, I was shipping from China different goods
mm.
such as watches, of course, fake watches, as well screen protectors for iPhone because I always knew that iPhone is very good at moving. It's
Mm,
very kind of fast moving product in general. And back then I was selling to watches to my teachers or through eBay, sometimes even illegally, of course, not 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 putting myself into tax government systems in general. Afterwards, it followed. We were together with my buddy. We were going through the thrift shops. We were buying second clothing shop brands, different like I'm not going to name right now, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
different brands in general, and reselling them online. So that was very good source of income. And back then, I was not asking for any money from my parents.
Mm,
I was able to afford my own clothes, shoes, tickets, thing like that. So I was because of my passion and I because of the all the flips that I did. That's how I started
love
finding
that.
myself. Actually, that actually drives me.
I love that.
And then I started studying finances just because of this reason,
Mm.
because I knew that I have to be better with finances because what I earned, I blew it off everything.
As you do.
So I thought that university is going to help me, which it taught me maybe different angles or different aspects of how to manage money, how to invest more properly.
Mm,
Uh, I learned about stocks, but I never thought about sales as a profession. And then at my third year of university, I started searching for a job.
mm,
And I was testing some accounting firms, then IT services firm. I didn't find myself
mm.
that kind of position, which was still a bit numbers, but it was very bland, tasteless. It's a good job. It's a good
Yeah,
paying job.
yeah.
However, for me, it was quite difficult. So I was working in two, sometimes three jobs simultaneously and studying at the same time.
Mm.
So I was very good at time management, doing everything averagely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's another aspect about me. So, but then I landed a job, luckily enough, at renewable energy space and
Mm,
software.
mm, mm.
I had no clue who the tech space is or renewable energy space or what was the SAS, MRR, or those kind of acronyms words. I never heard about them, but I was just like scouting for job positions.
Love that. And if we take a pause there, because I'd love to go into the world of tech in a moment, but you've just shared some really cool history there. And again, luckily, the government aren't listening to this, federal taxes and everything like that. They're not listening to this. Don't worry about them. But it just sounded like,
Right.
dude, like you was kind of a hustler, right? You had this entrepreneurial spirit within you. And something that really resonated with me where you said like growing your business is your passion, it is your hobby. I can align to that. And I want to dive into those things a little bit more. But Carla, what I'd love to do for our audience, because they're probably thinking like, yeah, I want to know more about this guy. What we're going to do, as we do, if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, and again, if you're listening to the podcast, there will be links below. But I'd love to come to Carlo's LinkedIn profile. So again, his LinkedIn profile will be in the show notes. Feel free to connect with him. He puts out some really cool content. But as we can also see, like you did your university before, then you were hustling, you're looking through all the jobs, you've been at places and coming into PV case, which we're going to talk about in a moment. And obviously you've gone into co-founder positions and you're also a co-founder and COO. And I think why you'd be really good for our audience today is because predominantly there's a lot of sales development reps that may one day want to go launch their own company. and it's what I wanted to do, and that's where I am. And I think that's great. That's why Deepak said you'd be a really good fit for our show, right? But in terms of, as you said, you went into this company, you'd never heard of MRR, you've never heard of tech or SaaS, and you're a guy that was like working with your bestie, selling stuff on eBay, like flipping things and like time management. And you said you're average good at doing it averagely and stuff like that. Before you got into that tech role, what was your life trajectory saying to you as to where you wanted to be? Because where you said you was looking at that accounting thing, it kind of felt bland. Like, what was your calling within you? There must have been something going through your mind.
I'm still trying to discover what was the root of where am I right now.
Hmm.
I strongly believe that somewhere hidden in myself it has something related to trauma. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal it here, but as well, I do speak with other founders that they saying the same thing, that there's some sort of driving motivator, typically coming from your childhood, from your parents, how they taught you, or from the school. Maybe you were bullied, or maybe you were bullied, which I was back in the school. I was very bad at school in general. My grades were terrible. Even both my parents are teachers, surprisingly. So I always went against, meaning that while I was at school, two different schools, both of the parents were different schools, but I was in both of them. So
Wow.
naturally, it's kind of all the grades, all the bad elements that I did at school were reported back then. So I was getting some remarks or notes from teacher, from my mom, asking for my father to put a signature because of my bad habits at school, for example. So
Yeah.
grades were terrible. I honestly was kind of lost. My friends were as well. My childhood were bad. Some of them are in jail right now. So that tells a lot. So I was lucky enough that I had basketball, that I poured my everything, all hours during my free time or after school or during weekends into basketball. I was not best or worst player, but I was at least passionate about it. So that kind of helped me to kind of stay on the focus there. And obviously, I had a lot of good learnings from basketball. So then I got into university. Yeah.
I think if we were childhood friends, we were met each other in childhood, we would have got along very well. And again, without going into the trauma, dude, for a bit of transparency, I had a big problem with authority when I was in high school and in school. And I used to hang around with a not so great crowd. My grades weren't there. And I used to get into a lot of trouble, like with the police and all other things when I was younger, right? I used to hang around with gangs, right? But not the bad gangs that you'll see on TV. And it wasn't like that.
To me.
Yeah. But we used to cause problems and issues and all of that. But I remember within school, a teacher one day saying to me face to face, and he was saying, Neil, why are you hanging around with these guys, man? You're so much better than that, and you've got so much potential. And I said, because these guys get me, and I can relate to them, right? But as I started going through into my last year of high school, before that, I was in every bottom set for English, math, science, and all of that, because I just didn't give a shit, and I just didn't apply myself. And we're all young, rebellious guys and kids, right? But it wasn't until I got into some big trouble at the end of just before my last year of high school that when I got into that trouble, I saw all of those friends disappear. I thought they were like family and they would stick with me through and thing. But when I did a bad thing, and I won't say what it is on this episode, yeah, they all went and I was like, shit, man, it's not what I thought. So I kind of distanced myself a little bit. And when I did that, within 2 weeks in my last year in high school, I moved to every top set of science, maths, and English. But where you fell into basketball, I fell into music. I had some friends that were rapping, like with the turntables and listening to like electronic music. And that is what kept me out of trouble. And I stopped being on the streets and going into youth centers and grabbing microphones and doing my rap piece. Yeah, I think we both kind of hit a crossroad and it was good, but we were kind of little hustlers as well. And we made our money. I used to sell stuff on eBay as well. But anyway, we digress. But thank you for being open and transparent and sharing that, because I think it's a common trait that I've seen with some founders that I've worked with where, academically or you got to a point in life and then something there's a catalyst that changes. And for me, that catalyst was getting into a tech company in my early 20s, right? And I'd love to now come to you with your story. So PV case, what's the story there, dude?
I don't know. I was lucky enough to get into, I was one of the first and founding SDRs. So on the first day we were, I believe 4 of us joined and 3 of us stayed for a long period of time. One of them right now is a co-founder of mine at GrowTech, which we continue our journey.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I had no clue what the PV case is, what the tech is, what all the fancy keywords.
Words.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. I was just lucky enough. The office was next to my place that I was living in. And I truly found myself amongst one of the smartest people that I know till this day, actually. So because co-founders are very much, I have nothing bad to say, amazing people, passionate about everything, about other people, giving all the resources and everything. So kudos to them, to David, Doug, afterwards Tom as well. So lovely people that we are staying in touch right now still to this day, even that I left the PVKs after more than 2 years already. So yeah, it was just, we had no experience. We are self-taught, almost no onboarding. Just one day, hey, here's your Salesforce, here's your LinkedIn, here's your CRM. That's it. Off you go.
That's it. Yeah,
Do
go for it.
something.
Yeah.
It's like dropping ourselves into an ocean and you have to swim right now. And it was the best kind of, some people would say nowadays that it was terrible onboarding, but actually we were helping each other, even that we were enemies, we were competitors to each other. And we were trying to have this kind of chance because we knew back then that the spots are limited, because the funds are limited, because we had no experience to get into proper company with all the, positions, onboarding tools. No, we were entering into scrappy startup, which was a spin-off from the other company, that's Rasova. But basically, we had to teach ourselves and help each other, those guys, and we did. So we had a good team leader, account executive back then, Tony, that he was telling us what to do, giving some guidance. Back then, there were no automation tools. It was just Salesforce. It was LinkedIn. So you had to physically, manually send connection requests or send emails from Outlook manually too.
Yeah.
So of course you are relying on templates and everything, sending hello XXX or hello first name without changing the name of the person. That happened a lot. So it was interesting experience. And for the first year, I'm speaking on behalf of us because we were competing, but helping each other. We were very much, I was afraid of making cold calls. And I thought that's like email or LinkedIn is a way to go. And initially that was because I had no experience of cold calling before. So naturally you had to kind of teach yourself. So little by little, after a year or so, I started discovering calling, at least warm calling at the very beginning, then later on led to cold calling afterwards. But as well, we had to find some tools to find phone numbers of people. So it was a fun journey. It was very big. It was very beginning. Right now, the company's in Series B stage. The last round was 100 million euros. Acquired some companies too. So it grew a lot. I was one of the first team leaders to lead sales development teams. And then my current co-founder back then became a second team lead. So then we started competing on a team lead level, on a team level. So that was a fun journey that I still recall to this day, every single moment.
I love that. And that's such a beautiful journey. And I think it's great for our audience to listen because we've got a lot of, sales development reps coming into this, but hearing somebody who's now in a founder position to admit that cold calling was something that they feared, and same with me, right? But also where you added the element of being in a scrappy startup. So there wasn't any structure, there wasn't an onboarding. You were figuring it all out with your team and having sales tools. Like a lot of SDRs, you guys and girls are lucky that things are automated with dynamic fields and tags, and you don't have to do manually stuff, sending LinkedIn requests. But we were doing it at mass manually. And I sometimes look at people that have tools that do this, and I said, like, you're so lucky compared to like what we had to go through in the early days, right? But what I also loved was, you know, you was working with your peer, and there was a competitive element, like a friendly competitiveness. And I can hear a lot of admiration to the team. And I think for that young Carlos who felt a little bit lost earlier in life, in his younger life, coming into something, it must have felt like you had an impact and you were building something and you were part of something. Would I have that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we were just given a couple of tools and that is it. Everything, we had no process, we had no onboarding, so that's the minor issue. So obviously we were helping each other, helping ourselves to know, first of all, how to land a meeting, how the proper handoff should look like, what's the hygiene in the system that we have to follow. So we have
Mm,
to literally build ourselves these kind of very proper processes. So it's this kind of element that plays a part. So obviously we were given some trainings, right? So we're not just like off we go and that's it, obviously, but not in much of the detail. On a high level, yes, we knew what we have to do, but we have to as well how to achieve that. So literally by Googling, there were no AI tools, Gemini, Perplexity, or ChatGPT. No,
yeah,
it was back in 2018, 19. So it's
yeah,
we have to, and there were not so much sales articles, or
mm,
those sales articles were properly written for very big sales organizations,
yeah,
how to follow some sort of sales methodology like spin,
mm,
band,
yeah,
metric,
yeah,
those kind of elements. Back then we had very limited information in general, so but we made it happen. So we started documenting. Of course, we were pushing each other. We were allocating tasks to each other. Who is responsible for adding context to CRM on which day, for example? So it was like a PvP server a little bit,
mm,
but that taught all of us a lot: how to build processes, how to build teams. I mentioned at the very beginning, before actually, that I was one of the first team leaders leading the sales development. And so I had I had no information about how to pick team members, how to ask good questions in the interview process.
yeah.
I remember during the first day of the interview day, we had maybe 18 interviews in one single day with our
Wow.
CEO. There was a big queue waiting to be interviewed, not just because that was much of the interest. We were running late.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
people were started queuing up. That was crazy day, remember that. And we were held by some other colleagues. But we made good choices of people that afterwards became other team leaders. They became heads of the departments. They did a brilliant job. So there was a lot of gut feeling to not necessarily looking at the resume or the CV or the LinkedIn profile, but as well,
Mm,
how do we click as human beings? Would we be able to work together,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Would you be interested in learning something new, what I am about to tell you, for example?
Mm,
Because I'm very much into process about documentation, thinking through before doing something. And I was looking for such people. I believe that did help me to build a very good foundation of people that were passionate, they were interested in working, but as well, they were curious enough to learn something new every single day. And we took young people, most of them, but they were hungry. They were hungry for the career, not necessarily following for money, but naturally, money always follows if you're doing a good job. It's just like a pretext. It's not the main condition to get into the tech sales typically, because every single tech salesperson, they were not looking for tech sales position typically. That's the average answer that you would be given. So that was a fun journey, how to build, first of all, how to become an SDR, a good SDR yourself, but then what kind of actions you have to do or you have to follow in order to become a team leader. Because then it's not just you booking meetings or you do the prospecting or you do handle all the objections. It's about how your team manages to do so.
Mm.
And at the very beginning, I have chosen good people, but I was having a big trouble on delegating tasks and
Mm.
giving my own um kind of I was insecure myself. I wanted to still I was still kind of a playing coach.
Mm.
I knew better. I will handle this. Let
Mm.
me call this guy
Yeah, yeah.
or this person or whatever. So I was having trouble with delegation, and I was not confident, first of all, in myself and my
Mm.
people at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But then actually after a couple of conversations, we hashed things out. So that was, yeah, another discover of myself of how to work with people, how to open up of them. So, and it was very interesting journey, at least I can say.
It's like we lived parallel lives in two different like parts of the world, and we're going through very similar things. And the reason I say that, and key things that you said there was, around documentation of your process, building that, hiring good people, not just based on their LinkedIn and CV, but that gut feeling. And these people were hungry, because my experience coming into that my first tech company, Carlo, was I felt like a fraudster. Like, I've been given this job, I've got some good money, and this is going to end at some point. I don't know, like I'm not the guy for this. But again, there were some processes, but it was what the company did in the US, and working in Europe is completely different. So there was a lot of figuring out, and I can remember coming to the office at 7 a.m. and sometimes not leaving till 11 p.m. because I just wanted to make sure everything was done and leads were processed and it was in Salesforce, and I followed like the rules. And working with our account executives, they were ex Salesforce and Oracle, and they were coming into this scrappy startup, and we were like the founding team. So it was like 5 of us in an office, and we built a lot of good relationships, and they did a lot of coaching. But I remember the first day where our recruiter said, okay, we've got an interview with some people for the next SDR on the team in EMEA. And we need you, Neil, to like help run the meeting. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I was just, I don't even know what I'm doing. But I remember our first hire was Oman, and he was an ex recruiter. And when we went into the interview, it was like he had more experience than I did. And he was talking to the hustler about coming into the job. And my thought was like, you're going to take my job, or you're going to replace me, is what I was thinking, right? But here we had this guy that wanted to get out of working recruitment. He wanted to change his life. He wanted to come into tech, and he would be responsible for the French market because I was dealing with UK and Nordics and the rest, right? But then over time, we were hiring other people. We had Abdullah, we had Patrick for DACH in Germany. And I was just like, cool, I'm meeting all these guys from different countries that are working with us in London. And we're building this thing like it was a satellite office of our main HQ that was in the US in London. But it was just like, I didn't know how to interview. And I was like, I'm not really a manager. I'm just the SDR. And then it was kind of like the team lead. I was the first guy. And to your point, I was trying to explain to these people Neil's process of how he was booking meetings, but it didn't make sense to them. And there was a lot of insecurities of just like, this is all going to fall apart, but let's just go for the next day and survive the next day. That's all that was going through my head, right? But it then got to a really good place. We built a lot of processes. And that was the thing that I realized when I became the manager. I wasn't looking for somebody that just wanted to have a 9 to 5, punch in, do their job and go home. I wanted somebody that wanted to build their career. They were hungry to progress in account executive, or one day they want to become a leader, or one day they want to launch their company. That was the shit that I was looking for. And I hired some really good people. But same way, I remember one day just feeling so insecure and going to our HR department and saying, I need to have some sort of management training because I don't formally know how to do this. And I'm not going to mention names, but HR response was, you don't really need to do that. You're doing a good job. It would have benefited me to go on that course, but I had to learn just by doing the job, right? But I think a question I'd love to ask you is, I meet a lot of people when they're in a position of becoming the founding SDR, and they may be coming from a place where they were one of many. And now they're coming into a scrappy startup, but they're going to be the first person on the ground. And they feel a little bit intimidated as to, shit, that's a lot of responsibility. If you were to give them like a tip before they go into that position, what would you say to them?
Listen to your team.
Hmm.
I believe that listening to your team is one of the key components here. Once you have a team of yours, right? And be always for them, help them every single day, ask them. Basically, you do everything what you haven't had before. So you have to build a foundation for another generation. So you have to be curious about them as human beings. So that's quite important, and I believe it's believing in them, because typically that's what they actually need.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Listen to them, believe in them. And I think a mantra that I've always tried to live by is the best way to help yourself is by helping other people. When you help those people to become successful, help them win, then these are things that you're going to learn that helps you in that leadership and then helps build that confidence and help start reducing those insecurities. And it's just not the motivation of I just want to make money, make a paycheck and get commission. It's I want to see other people win. And I feel that's what's helped me as a leader. I've seen really good leaders do that as well and putting those people first, right? But the other bit that I want to come to today, Sam, is you've made that beautiful jump. And if we go back to your LinkedIn profile of being a head of sales development and then going into your own company. And as you said earlier, GrowTech is your passion. You've been building this for the last 5 years. How does it feel to be somebody that was head of sales development and now you've got a team of 40 spread across 3 continents and 8 countries? You're managing a lot of people and you're living that founder life. What has that transition been like?
PVKs to GrowTech or inside the PVKs?
Take us all the way through, Brood.
Yeah. So, what helped me to achieve the career at PVKs that I achieved is that I was never happy with the status quo. I was always looking for better results, better tools, better processes, always been optimizing, always do A/B testing. And because once you stop learning, basically you can shut your business down. So I believe that helped for me personally to build some credits in front of top management to believe in me, because I was all the time innovating, and building processes, not just for one team, but afterwards for second, third, fourth teams, building as well, because we all the time need to as well, because outreach world, sales development, always sales industry as an industry, it's very volatile. It's changing right now. What's happening with AI, but in PVKs, we all the time been optimizing, and we achieved amazing results. We are one of the fastest growing startups in Europe.
Mm,
So, and it's very hard thing to achieve.
yeah.
And somewhere from Lithuania, we did that. So against all the odds, in very niche and very limited ICP industry, which is renewable energy, solar
Mm,
industry afterwards. So we were a niche in the niche. But I believe that build a great foundation, that we managed to achieve great results, is just by innovating. And obviously, we had good team members that we trusted each other. We as well, we disagreed sometimes, but that's where actually brilliant ideas are coming from. If you are listening, if you're not stubborn, or if you're stubborn and you're not listening, and you're only one person that's smartest in the room, then you are the bullshit guy,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
I was that person for some time, but I am trying to analyze myself, what's wrong with me or what's good with me.
Mm,
Obviously, it's sometimes that led to some conflict situations, but we all human beings, we all the time have life. Life happens, deaths, births, marriages, bad days in general.
mm,
So that has an influence on your professional life too.
mm,
Fortunately or unfortunately, that adds the spice or the taste to your life or professional life. So, and then transition to GrowTech from PVKs was kind of an interesting one. I am quite confident guy who believes in myself, and I always knew sooner or later that I want to have my own business. And I knew, and sometimes it comes with the overconfidence too, that I knew that in Lithuania in particular, there was very limited amount of knowledge on what the SDR, what the BDR is, how to
mm,
build outreach process, how to build automations, how to build Salesforce reporting and automations, for example,
mm,
how to build teams that actually functions as working together. And I started speaking with my co-founder at PVK's office, ironically,
mhm,
that, hey, I'm doing this. Are you in?
mm.
And we said yes to each other and we created a business. We formally created an entity of the business. But naturally, in order to, if you want to make it as a lifestyle business, aka consulting business, so then you don't have to have a capital for that because it's a transaction
Yeah.
time that you
Yeah.
sell to other customer of yours or clients for a bigger kind of monetary value that you would get while being an employee. But my whole idea was that I want to build a business company because there's a big difference between lifestyle business and a company business.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always wanted to have company that, not because I want to be the boss, but that's something that I never tried, first of all. And I wanted to do that I have my own company. There are people that are working together. They are not working for me, but we're having a good time together. That always have been passion for me. And 5 years ago, we started officially, but we started going full time 3 years ago, give or take, something like that. My co-founder started earlier going to full time, and myself, I started half a year, uh, basically later.
I love that.
So that's how we started. It was a very rough road because to actually run a business, profitable business and a function business, you have to have people, you have to have capital. Previously, I was playing Monopoly with other founders' money, so it was a bit easy to me. And right now, I have to have my own money to gamble, to know, and that every single mistake that you have very limited amount of capital costs you way more than in previous ventures. So every single mishire of a person costs you a lot of money. Fortunately, unfortunately. So obviously there are lessons to be learned, but we made so many mistakes, and obviously there are sayings that you have to learn from other people's mistakes. Yada yada. There are like a gazillion amount of books or ebooks, articles written about that, and you have to learn from other people's mistakes. Unfortunately, we learned in a hard way. We have a saying here that's like, for GrowTech, for both of us, Dom and myself, we have no easy routes. We always go for the very rough, bumpy roads. We don't like highways, but we becoming stronger every single day. And our motto is just to show up, not necessarily grind every single day for 12 to 14 hours, but just show up, do your best, clock in, clock out. That's it. And then rest. Obviously, that's in the ideal world, but you have shit days, you have life happening, but all the time you have pressure that you have to pay salaries for your own employees, you have to pay for yourself. There are like sometimes you're not even paying yourself a salary because you want to pay for your employees, because if you have customers that they technically bought a service that requires people, employees, and then if you have no employees, you cannot accommodate clients' needs and deliver the result. So you are all the time being pressurized every single day in order to pay salaries for your employees, in order to be in the business. Because otherwise, if you don't have employees, you're running out of capital. If you're running out of capital, you're losing customers. And it's kind of a spiral of death, unfortunately, that we witnessed a couple of almost near life death experiences ourselves. Thank you, but no thank you anymore. So we are much more clever right now. But no, every single ML element, it's a journey. It's a lesson that you have to take, and that's how it is.
I love it. Carlo, it's been so beautiful to hear these things, and it's validating. Perhaps there are some founders listening out there that have gone through this experience, but it's a really good exposure to show our audience that are thinking about it. It's not an easy journey, right? And I love how that you're very self-reflective of, seeing how things can be improved and having that driving energy and being so passionate about your business, working with Dom, passionate about your team and paying these people. And you're right, because I've been in happy selling for 8 years, and it is a lifestyle business. It's not like a profitable business that's run by founders. And I think when people say, like, what is it like working for yourself? I said, it's lonely, it's crazy, it's rewarding. But I have this vision, like, happy selling is 8 years old. And I said, they say it takes 10 years to build a business. Right. And I'm still figuring out my methodology. I'm still figuring out my pricing packaging, even to this day. And I'm the one person that does all the marketing, the sales, the CSM, the onboarding, the training, building stuff and all like that. But I have this vision one day that there will be a team and there's like a building. There's a picture in my head of like a happy selling logo on a building, and people are coming into that office and they're spreading the vibes of happy selling to salespeople across the world. Who those people are, I don't know. Well, how that's going to happen, I have no idea. But you sometimes have to have this blind faith that you're working towards something. But for lifestyle business, for me, I just want more time with my kid. And I want one day to be able to go to somebody, hey, I want to hire you to do what I'm doing so I can do more of these other things I'm doing with happy selling. But it's not a journey for everyone, and it's hella scary. And there are a lot of lessons learned. I've been burnt, as a consultant or as like somebody for hire. But I think it was Pitbull, like the musician, that says failure is the mother of all success. Right? That is how you're going to learn, and that's how you're going to grow. And I think it's being strong enough to say, even when you do fail, that you're able to pick yourself back up and keep going. But as a founder, you have to have that talk with yourself to pick yourself back up and to keep moving forward. But this has been a beautiful
Well said.
episode, and I can definitely now understand why Deepak says you need to get this guy on the show. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us, Carlo. And I'm just curious, a question that I like to ask all of my guests before we wrap up today is, if you could go into the classroom with that young Carlo, where he was in that school, where his mum and dad was in the school and like he wasn't in a good place, and you could just sit in front of him and just give him 3 bits of advice, what would you say to that younger version of yourself, Carlo?
It's very hard to say free, but I would say the number one, be a little bit more diplomatic. Do not think that you are the main person in the room. Everyone has to circle around you. That's from what I would see that I needed a little bit more of this. And then second, free, I think it's continue being a kind of curious person all the time. Do not stop innovating. Do not stop the progress. Be curious enough. So that's the second one. And the third one right now is very easy to say with all the experience is to delegate, and trust in people, trust in humanity. Don't overcomplicate things just because you think that you are the better or something like that. So these are the things that I would tell to younger version of myself that started his own career 8 years ago.
Love that. Absolutely amazing, bro. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And a big
Thank you so
thank
much.
you to all of our listeners and watchers that have joined us on this chapter. If Carlo's episode has resonated with you, if you're listening to this on your local podcast platform, make sure that you give us a rating and share it with somebody. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe down below. And if you've got any questions or thoughts on today's episodes or questions for Carlo, please put them in the comments and share this episode with other people. And with Carlo, what we're going to be doing is putting all the links to his LinkedIn profile, to the website with GrowTech, so you can find out more information about them. But Carlo, I just wanted to say thank you for being a great guest on a beautiful chapter of the SDR DiscoCall Show. And I wish you a great and successful week, sir. And most importantly, happy selling.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you, Deepak, for the recommendation, and thanks for everyone for listening to me. Yeah, thank you.